In this lesson, we'll learn about perfect, major, diminished, and augmented intervals as discussed in Theory Time, Grade 8. We know from our previous lessons and from Grade 7 Theory Time that intervals come in different sizes, such as unison, second, third, and so on. And then types. The types we've learned so far are perfect and major. Now, the perfect and major intervals that we've learned about always contain notes that were within our scale. So here we have a C major scale written out with C's underneath each pitch of the scale to create all of our different intervals, unison, second, third, fourth, so on. These are all either perfect or major, as we learned last time. The minor, diminished, and augmented intervals come into play when we alter some of these notes. So for example, if we look at our major third, we'll draw one over here. These two notes are within our scale, C, D, E, 1, 2, 3, that's a major third. To make it minor, we would lower the upper note by a half step. It's still a third, 1, 2, 3, C, D, E, but we've lowered the upper note by a half step. To make it diminished, we would lower it another half step, and we would call that double flat, then C to E double flat, which is from here to here, but we're naming this double flatted E. To make that third augmented, we would raise the upper note by a half a step, so it'd still be C to E, but it would be E sharp, so it still looks like a third, but because we raised it a half step on the top, it's augmented. So major intervals can become minor, little m, by lowering the top note a half a step, and then they can become diminished by lowering it another half a step, and they become augmented by raising it a half step. Perfect intervals work the same way. For augmenting, you just raise the upper note by a half step. Let's take a perfect fourth. If I create the F sharp, from C to F sharp, I've created an augmented fourth. However, perfect intervals don't become minor when you lower the upper note. They go straight to being diminished. So if I take my perfect fourth, C to F, and I make it now F flat, then that would be a diminished fourth. So one tool that's very helpful for figuring out is it major, minor, diminished, etc., is to know how many half steps are in each interval. Especially if you're unfamiliar or still working on memorizing your key signatures, that can be very helpful to just know that you can figure this out using half steps. We use the half steps on our C major scale, so you at least have to be familiar with that. When we go from C to C, of course, we're staying right in place. So C to C is 0 half steps. So if I want to take unison, which is perfect unison, and I want to make then a diminished unison, then it's C flat, C to C flat. What if I'm looking at an interval and it looks like this? G to F. Well, I know it's a seventh of some sort. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7th. And sevenths could be major or minor, diminished, or augmented. But say I'm not sure from G to F if those notes are both in the same G major scale. So I know from C to B is a major seventh. So if I count my half steps, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, then I know a major seventh equals 11 half steps. Well, from G to F is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Ooh, it's just 10 half steps. So that must mean that this has been lowered by a half step. It's not quite as big as 11. It's one less. It's just 10. 11 would be right here at F sharp. So this would be a major seventh, and this, what I was trying to analyze here, is lowered a half step, so that's a minor seventh. Let's take another example. Say we have this interval here. Well, that's a fourth. And fourths, we know, start out at perfect if both notes are in the key. But let's say I'm not familiar with my F major scale and I'm not sure if B is in the scale or not. I know if I start on C and I count my half steps for a fourth, a perfect fourth is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So a perfect fourth equals 5 half steps. From F to B is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Oh, it's 6 half steps. That means I raised this by half a step. So this is actually an augmented fourth. Because if I go up 5 half steps from F, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, that's B flat. Now I know F major has a B flat in it. There's my perfect fourth. But this one right here, that's augmented. That's a half step higher than B flat. So it's augmented. I hope you found that helpful.